Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I paint stripes on my old 911. Today I'm working on my old 911 and I'm ready to paint the stripes. So let's get into it. Alright, first things first, obviously you've got to sand the whole car back ready to paint the stripes on. Some people have done it, I have seen you can just mask up the areas of the stripes and then scuff that area back with Scotch-Brite or something like that and then paint the stripes on. You get a very heavy edge then, and I always worry that it'll lift and peel on the edges because it's very hard to get that perfect bite on the very edge of the paint. So I prefer to sand it back. Every panel that's going to be painted needs to be sanded back with a fine sandpaper, anywhere from sort of 800 to 1200 grit. I've done mine with 800. I'm quite happy with 800. I've never had any problems. First things first is to find your center point. So try and find some reference marks on the car and establish a center line for your stripes. So that's what I'll do now. Now I've got my center line, I'm actually going to have an orange stripe in the middle, 18mm thick, because I've got 18mm masking tape. I find that the best way to lay the stripes on is in measurements of tape, because it makes a nice even consistent width all the way along and it gets a nice straight centre. Alright, so now I'm ready to mask my centre line. Now, a lot of people when they're masking stripes, most people go for fine line tape, which is a stretchy rubberized backing tape. It's much more resistant to bleeding, the paint bleeding underneath, than paper tape. The issue I find is that getting a straight line with fine line tape is a lot more difficult to do than with regular paper backed masking tape. You have to be more careful about bleeds, and I've got some of this green painter's tape, which I haven't actually used before, but I thought I'd give it a try. But the main reason I use this stuff is because it is much easier to get a nice straight line, and there is nothing worse than looking at your stripes and looking up the line and it's wobbly. So, all right, so now I'm going to start my line between my marks. At my centre point. And then I'm going to pull it out nice and straight and hold it the full length in a straight line. I find that's the best way to go to get a nice straight line. Aim for my mark, and that is looking pretty good straight away. Now I've got it on nice and straight, exactly where I want it. I can lightly tape it, mask it down. I'll lift this bottom edge and get rid of my centre mark, because this tape is now perfectly on my centre line. Now I need to follow that up over the roof and down to the ducktail in the back. Alright, so for the roof, I'm quite lucky because on the back here we actually have some nice reference points here. So we've got this row, 11 vents, so I just need to find the centre of the centre vent, and that's my midpoint. So in this case, I'm not measuring it, I'm doing it by eye. Alright, so I'm happy with my centre point, so now I get my green tape again. I mask perfectly on top of my centre point. And now I run it forward over the car. Hold it out high, not touching, and then lower it down in line all the way to my bonnet stripe. That has made a nice, easy, straight line over the roof. Alright, now to get the line across the back, I've stuck it on top of my existing line on top of the roof. There. And extending it straight out to my centre line on my duct tape. So now, I've marked my centre point there. I trim this off below where I'm going to need and drop it down. Now I need to try and keep it all in line. Tip to make sure of is make sure you really get it nice and pressed into every little curve, and don't stretch it in there. Make sure you give it enough tape so it'll sit in there, because if you try and push it in there and stretch it in there, it'll probably pop up and then you get bleeding underneath. So every time you get to one of these corners, like this one here, make sure you have enough tape to really get into that edge hard. All right, so now we've got the center line marked out. That is the most difficult part. You really need to make sure that is perfectly straight, you're perfectly happy, because once that's in, that's your guide to mark everything else off of. I've decided that basically I want this to be 2 broad stripes followed by 2 finer stripes on the outside. And I've worked out the size that I'd like is roughly 6-inch stripes. So I've got some of this 2-inch masking tape that I'm now going to run down either side, and I'll show you how I get a nice even spacing all the way over. Because an issue you can have is if I measured 6 inches here and 6 inches at the top and then ran another line down, because of the curves of the car, you could end up getting stripes that bow out, and that's not what you want. So this method, I find, gets a nice straight even stripe every time. Alright, so there's one, and basically I just keep laying tape against tape. Now it's for the 18mm. Alright, so now I'm back with the green tape, which is actually going to stay on the car. All the rest of this yellow tape is going to be torn off. It's probably confusing at the moment, but stick with me and it'll make sense in a minute. Outside green lines are on, so now this piece of tape is not necessary anymore. Alright, are we confused yet? Well, next I'm going to go back with this fine line tape, because it is 6mm, which is the size I'm looking for, because I want a fine orange line just down here. Alright, so the blue line is now on. We're all masked up the way we want it. So now I'm sure I've completely confused you, but now all the yellow tape is coming out, and then we're going to have masked up, ready to go, 2 broad lines and 2 narrow lines. Alright, so all of that tape and all of that stuffing around just to end up with these few little bits of tape on the car. But that is the best way I know to do nice, straight, even stripes over the entire length of the car. So now we need to mask up everything else and get some paint on it. Alright, so I'm all masked up, ready to go, and another little tip to stop bleeding, which is what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to dust back over it with the base colour. So in this case, the orange, I'm going to go over it, so if it is going to bleed anywhere, hopefully the orange will fill that void, and the rest should hopefully be smooth sailing with no bleeding. Alright, and the purple is done. It's best to just dust it, and you can also notice that I haven't masked up the area that's going to go black, because I don't need to. The black is going to cover well enough to cover over the purple. So now I just need to mask up all the purple bits and spray the black. Alright, stripes are all painted, so it's time to unwrap the present and see what we've got. Alright guys, and that's how I paint stripes, and I think they've come out pretty good. They're nice and straight. It's just been given the first coat of clear. To get a good finish on it, I always recommend to clear it once, sand it back, and then flow coat the car, giving it a nice flat finish and get rid of any edges that the stripes will leave. But yeah, I'm quite happy. So if you're enjoying the videos, please like and subscribe to my channel, Home Built by Jeff, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at the same place. All right, see ya.